Mr. Scott of Florida. Mr. Scott of South Carolina. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Shelby. Ms. Sinema. Ms. Smith. Ms. Stabenow. Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Tester. Mr. Thune. Mr. Tillis. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Tuberville. Mr. Van Hollen. Mr. Warner. Mr. Warnock. Ms. Warren. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Mr. Young.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50, the Senate being equally divided. The Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the amendment is agreed to.
Madam President,
The Republican leader.
I call up my amendment number 889 and I ask that it be reported by number.
The clerk will report it by number.
The senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell, proposes an amendment numbered 889.
Madam President, colleagues, what they have done here is to reverse three important amendments that were adopted on a bipartisan basis. They've, in effect, taken out the proposal that prevented checks from going to illegals. They've taken out support for fracking, and they've taken out support for the Keystone Pipeline. So they're trying to reverse what they previously adopted along with us on a bipartisan basis. I would urge the adoption of my amendment.
The question is on the amendment. Is there a sufficient second?
There is.
There is. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.
Do I need to press this?
No,
Okay.
it's fine.
Are there any senators in the chamber wishing to vote or to change his or her vote? If not, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50, and the amendment is not agreed to.
Madam Vice President,
Senator from Vermont.
we now come to the end of a debate that has gone on for over 14 hours. And we end this debate in a moment in which our country faces more crises, more pain, more anxiety than at any time since the Great Depression. And with the passage of this resolution, we have the opportunity not only to address the pandemic, to address the economic collapse, to address the reality that millions of our kids have seen their education disrupted, but we have the opportunity to give hope to the American people and restore faith in our government by telling them that tonight we understand the pain that they are experiencing, and we are going to do something very significant about it. In the strongest possible terms, I ask for a yes vote on this enormously important budget resolution.
The adoption of the concurrent resolution as amended.
Is there a sufficient second?
Is there a sufficient second? Apparently there is.
The clerk will call the roll.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Barrasso.
All right. Should I do this? On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the concurrent resolution as amended is adopted.
Madam Vice President, Mr. President, thank you so much for being part of this first big step to putting our country back on the road to recovery. And we very much appreciate your being here. And Mr. President, just a brief word. I am so thankful that our caucus stayed together in unity. We had no choice, given the problems facing America and the ability and the desire to move forward. And we have moved forward. Many bipartisan amendments were adopted, so this was a bipartisan activity. In fact, the first amendment, which will help the restaurants, was done by Senators Sinema and Wicker. But we cannot underscore enough how much help the America needs during this awful crisis. And we cannot miss the point that we still have a long way to go. This was a giant first step, a step in concord, and we're so grateful that President Biden put together a plan with input from so many of us, both sides of the aisle, to bring America back, to overcome this horrible crisis, and then move America forward so that Americans once again feel the hope and opportunity that has been so much part of this land, but we seem to have lost over the last 4 years, and particularly with the pandemic. So we will keep working as hard as we can to pass this legislation through the House, through the Senate, as we go through the reconciliation process, and hopefully put it on the President's desk. A month ago today, 2 senators from Georgia, 2 Democratic senators were elected. And just a month from that day, we have taken a giant step to begin to fulfill our promise to the American people that the Democratic Senate, Democratic House, and President Biden will have their back and move them forward during this awful crisis. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate be in a period of morning business, with senators permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that upon the conclusion of morning business on Monday, February 8th, the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the nomination, calendar number 6, Dennis Richard McDonough, to be Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Furthermore, that at 5:30 p.m., the Senate vote without intervening action or debate on the nomination, that if confirmed, the motion be reconsidered, be considered made and laid upon the table, the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 3 p.m. Monday, February 8th. Further, that following the prayer and pledge, the morning hour be deemed expired, the journal proceedings be approved to date, the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, and morning business be closed. Further, that upon the conclusion of morning business, the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the McDonough nomination as provided for under the previous order.
Without objection.
Mr. President, the next roll call vote will be Monday at 5:30 on the confirmation of the McDonough nomination to be Secretary of Veterans Affairs. The impeachment trial will begin on Tuesday. If there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask it stand adjourned under the previous order. Thank you, Trish.
The Senate stands adjourned until 3 p.m. Monday, February 8th. You bet.
The Senate approved a budget resolution that instructs Senate committees to draft a bill based on President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief plan. Senators also passed several amendments to the measure, including one that would reduce the number of people who are eligible for direct payments and another that would prevent an immediate increase to the federal minimum wage. The latest effort on another relief package is being done through a process known as reconciliation, which allows budget-related legislation to pass by a simple majority. We expect more debate on the Senate floor in the coming days once the House takes up the resolution, which could come as early as Friday, and all committees submit their final proposals. As always, you'll find live coverage of the Senate here on C-SPAN 2.